What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this episode of Custom with Vic. Today we got these Animal Instinct Jordan 11s. Not everybody was a big fan of these. I understand they could have been better, so we're gonna be turning them into some Black Cat Jordan 11s. It's an easy project. Basically what we're gonna do is turn the entire shoe black with some other details. So without further ado, let's get it started. First things first, for before and after purposes, we'll put this shoe to the side. Take out our laces and insole real quick. Now let's get into the customization of the sneaker. The first thing we gotta do is dye the entire zebra panel. But first, we're gonna grab our clippers to trim some areas. There's some hairs that are pretty nappy. They're just kind of sticking up all over the place. I'm gonna clean that up before we can start with the dyeing process. Good to go with that. We got the little hairs that were standing up out of the way. Now it's on to dyeing this entire panel. For this, we'll be using some Angelus black paint and some water. We're gonna mix it up with the 1:1 ratio mix. The reason why I'm using water mixed with the black paint is so I can thin it out. That way when I apply it onto the fur, it doesn't lose its original texture. On to plan C. Plan A and plan B didn't really work out. As far as the first method, using paint and water, just doesn't look right. It's still pretty white. The second method I tried was using leather dye in this back piece. Compared to the first method, it looks a lot better. It's more solid, but not as solid as I needed it to be. And I would hate to use this on the entire panel because it really does stink. So now we're on to plan C. For this, I had to break out my secret weapon and get advice from my girlfriend. She's a hairstylist, so she's an expert when it comes to this stuff. She recommended I use some hair dye for this part. It makes sense. Originally, I was trying to use some leather paint and leather dye, when in reality, this is hair, not leather. So for this, we're gonna be using some Arctic Fox black dye. We're gonna pour it into this bowl, mix a little water in it so it's not really thick, and then we're gonna apply it with a brush. Hopefully, this works. Here's where we're at. So far, it's not looking that great. I should have listened to my girlfriend and not added water to the mix and just used straight dye. So what we're gonna do next is go to the sink, wash all this dye out with some water and shampoo. We're gonna treat it like real hair. We're gonna get some of this dye out, come back and redo this process with just dye. My guess, this is gonna take another 5 sessions to get it fully solid black. Let's go to the sink. So here's where we're at, you guys. After applying the dye 3 different times, I would go to the sink and every single time the dye would simply wash out. At that point, I knew I was doing something wrong. So I hit up my girlfriend. She told me to bring the shoe in to her studio to see what she was working with. When I brought it into my girlfriend, she looked at the shoe, she whipped up some dye, she applied it right away, and in 30 minutes, she got these beautiful black hair results. At first, I was kind of sketched out by what she was doing, but then I realized what I was doing wrong. At first, I was simply applying the dye onto the shoe without mixing any developer. Developer is very important with this process. She mixed developer 20 with dye in a nice little bowl, got it mixed up real well. She applied it with the brush all around the shoe. The key is also applying it in thick, chunky amounts all around the shoe. Again, it looks kind of sketchy. I thought it wasn't gonna work out. When she applied it, it was straight up brown and clear. I thought she ruined the shoe. But again, after 30 minutes, we let it sit, we let it cure. When we rinsed it all out, I was amazed. We got these black hair results. She knew what she was doing. To recap this process, if you guys are gonna do this at home, remember, you guys gotta treat this like real hair. That means you guys gotta buy Developer 20, black box hair dye, mix it up real well. When you guys apply it onto the shoe, apply it in thick, heavy coats, rinse it out using shampoo. Again, treat it like real hair, and you guys should get beautiful results just like this. Now let's keep it moving with this custom. The next step we're gonna do is grab our Angel's black dye, a little tiny angular detail brush, and we're gonna hit up all the edges all around this panel. Edges are complete. Big shout out to my girlfriend for all her help dyeing the shoe. Never did I think that I'd be dyeing a shoe using hair products. Now we're on to some details. In a perfect world, if I had more time, I would have found a guy to make me some custom black cat tongue tabs for this piece. I would have done black cat on one side, cat on the other, and a Jumpman in the middle, all blacked out with a dark gray. Again, I couldn't find a guy, nor did I have enough time to do that. Also, off camera, I tried removing this 23 in the back area. It didn't come off. If I did scrape it off, it would completely ruin this area. In a perfect world, once again, if I was able to remove this 23, I would add a whole different logo or stencil in this back piece. So we're gonna go with the easy stuff and just simply black it out using some black Angel's paint and a small detail brush. That's all taken care of, real easy. Anybody could do this at home, just use some black paint and a small brush. Now we're on to the midsole. For this, once again, we'll be using some flat black paint. The reason why I like to use flat black paint over regular black paint is because this is nice and matted. If I was to use black paint, it'd be really glossy and kind of off looking. Let's go ahead and cover up the white and these dye marks using the paint and an angular brush. Midsoles are fully blacked out, covered up all that white and nasty dye. This custom looks full now. I highly recommend you guys lay down an Angel's leather dye base coat all around the midsole. After that, lay down 3 to 4 coats of black paint. Then lay down a really good sealer or finisher all over the paint job to seal it in. The thing with these 11s is this midsole is very flexible, so when you start wearing them, it's gonna flex right away. That paint is gonna crack. So if you do all 3 of those things, it should hold up. Now on to the last step. Originally, I wanted to add the black cat on the tongue tab. Same thing with this back piece, I just couldn't make it happen. So the next best thing I could do is grab our insole. This is the original one from the 11s. I started removing the Jumpman. On this bottom piece, I'm gonna lay down an iron-on black cat logo. Let's go ahead and print out the design that Julian sent over. This looks great. We got the black cat stencil fully cut out. I went with the comic book style for this one. Big shout out to Jubes. Now the next thing we're gonna do is lay this down, grab our Cricut heat press. We're gonna iron it on, peel off the plastic, and we should have a nice crispy black cat on the insole. Let's do it. Black cat is on the insole. That came out real crispy. Now I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna hold up after a few wears. Compared to the original Jumpman, the Jumpman comes off after 1 or 2 wears, so for this, I'm hoping it lasts a lot longer. Now to the final step of this custom, the carbon fiber. I almost forgot about this area. For this, we'll be using some Remixer Kicks black soul dye. We're gonna try to dye it black. That'll be able to get it to a solid black, but if I could get a nice tint, I'll be happy with that. Alright guys, that's gonna bring us to an end on these custom Black Cat Jordan 11s. This was supposed to be an easy project. I just thought I was gonna lay down a bunch of black all around the shoe, but this turned out to be a challenge. Specifically talking about the hair. At first I tried using paint, tried using dye, none of that stuff worked. I had to go in and treat it like real hair. I dyed it using actual hair products. After that, it was pretty easy. We laid down the black to cover up the red on the tongue tab, covered up the red 23 by laying down some more black, and I finished up these customs by blacking out the midsoles, dyeing the carbon fibers black, and adding the Black Cat logo onto the insoles. I love how this custom turned out. I really wish I would have made these in my size. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Vick Almighty. I'll catch you guys next Monday. See you guys.